Hey, David. The bullpen's gotten off to such a great start. For you personally, what has been the most satisfying part of what they've been able to do?
Uh, Getting outs. I mean, they've helped us a ton. Clearly, we would not have the record that we have right now without the contributions from every single member of that pen, and that's probably been the most impressive part to me. Is that up and down that pen, every guy there has gotten big outs throughout the course of these first 9 games, and we've needed them, and they've performed at a very high level.
Without getting into anything, obviously that would be proprietary. Just can you kind of go over your general philosophy on building a bullpen and the types of things that you look for and how you're able to identify some of these pieces that have performed so well?
You never entirely know how a bullpen's going to come together, and so one of the things we do try to remind ourselves is that bullpens, as much as any piece of your team, tend to change over the course of the season. I'm certainly thrilled that we have a group that's performing really well right now, and part of what we look for is that flexibility in the pen to allow us to mix and match over the course of the year when we need to allow us to get a fresh arm when we need to. And in terms of the quality of stuff, we want variety. We understand that different hitters are going to hit different types of pitches well, different arm slots, and having guys who maybe look a little bit different from each other, in addition to the things you always want. You want strike throwing, you want swing and miss, you want good stuff, but having guys who maybe do it a little bit differently from one another is generally a positive as well.
Howie?
David, assuming that McNeil is still at least a couple of weeks, if not more, away. I'm sorry, McNeil is not, a couple of weeks or so away. What are you looking to see to further inform you about both Acuña and Baty as to who would be a better fit if he's not playing every day, or how they might react to infrequent starts?
So the good news from a decision-making perspective is we still do have some time to gather some information. Defensively, I think both those players have played very well. And Acuña, we know, is a very solid defender. That's been his calling card throughout his career, and he has continued to demonstrate that at the major league level. Brett, shifting to a new position, has, I think, done a really good job and probably exceeded our expectations in terms of how quickly he would adjust to that position at the major league level with very limited minor league experience, and I commend him a ton for that. Offensively, I think on both players, they haven't gotten off to the starts that they would have liked. Brett had a really hot spring training, and we saw the type of potential and quality at bats that he had. And I think for him, it's just getting back to that approach and frankly, seeing some results. And that's a big part of this at the major league level. You kind of need to see some results to get that confidence back. And if we can have some hits fall for really both those guys, I think hopefully we can get one of them on a roll here and allow us to have a really healthy complement when we get fully healthy.
From an evaluation standpoint, assuming that you can say that Jeff is the incumbent and figures to regain that role when he comes back, do you feel, if not an urgency, then a strong desire to see one or the other of Acuña or Baty kind of grab the opportunity and run with it to show you that they could play every day? Or are you also looking to see who might best fit in a utility role? Because, I get the chance to play every day.
I think I'd love to see one of them step up. I'd love to see one of them take advantage of at bats and perform, and that's what someone like Mark Ventos did last year when he got an opportunity and he solidified a spot at the major league level. And you'd love to see that from young players. I also understand it can't always happen at the exact moment we want it to. And for both of these guys, if one of them does find their way back to the minor leagues at some point when we get fully healthy, there are going to be other opportunities. And we know that through whatever occurrence, they will find their way back to the big leagues and they'll get another shot. But sure, I would love to see one or both of them perform at a really high level before we have to make those decisions and prove that they're going to be able to really contribute throughout the course of the year and help our team win games.
Tony?
What did you think about Vladimir Guerrero's extension, and to what extent do you view that as an isolated case versus something that could change the way the first base market looks going forward?
Is that official? If it is not official, I can't comment on it right now.
Can you comment on what you feel like the first base market looks like in general, considering you were in there last winter, and obviously there's been movement?
I will comment on that when we get to the offseason.
Tim on the left.
What have the reports been on Daniel Nunes from the Syracuse staff?
Pretty good. He looks like Nunes, so that's been a positive. We're going through a pretty structured progression here, so that when we call him up, he has the ability to really function as a full go major league reliever. But the stuff has been good. He's thrown well, and it's been encouraging.
I mean, when he comes up, it'll obviously be less structured, given the realities. So how do you transition him from one to the other?
I think that's part of the process in AAA. So you go from knowing exactly when you're going to pitch to knowing you may pitch in one of these 3 or 4 innings to knowing you may pitch in one of these next couple of days to not knowing at all whether it's going to be 1 inning, 1+, 2 innings. And so that is part of what he's going through at AAA right now.
And do you guys plan to call him up when he's eligible, or is it not that?
We haven't made a decision as to when he'll be called up.
Lloyd?
Thank you. David, obviously a lot of talk about catching. I noticed Kevin Parada's name didn't come up when Alvarez got injured. Are you satisfied with his progress?
So, I mean, Kevin's in Double-A, and so he hasn't quite gotten to the point yet in his career where we would view him as major league depth. I think Kevin's had some ups and downs throughout his minor league career since he's been drafted. We still believe in the player. Had a very good camp, came into camp in really good shape, and had worked really hard over the offseason. So we still like the player, and looking forward to seeing how his year in Double-A goes this year.
Dave on the left.
Dave, and despite the losses that you guys in spring training with the rotation, obviously down 3 guys, you're always confident that the replacements are going to do well. What's been your impression so far of how the rotation has performed and really as they were kind of thrown in together towards the end of spring training?
I think those guys have done well, and what's coming out of their hand is really good. I think we'd love to see guys go a little bit deeper into games, and that's always true in April, and we'll get there. But what's coming out of their hand, the stuff, how they're going about attacking hitters, we've been very pleased, really, with 1 through 5 in our rotation so far.
Gary?
David, getting back to the bullpen, there's been so much conversation in the industry about relievers becoming starters. Has it become just as important to identify starters who can become multiple inning relievers? Is that something that is, you think, unique to the way you've put together this bullpen, or do you think that's an industry-wide concern?
So I think, especially early in the season, where we don't anticipate starters going 100, 110 pitchers, having length out of your pen in some capacity, whether it's the true long reliever who can give you 60 pitches and just take over a game, or having a couple of guys who can do this sort of 30 to 40 pitch outings that we've seen. I do think that's important early in the season, and a lot of those guys happen to be starters coming through the minor leagues. So I don't know whether this is an industry trend, but I do think it is important, particularly early in the season, to be able to insulate your staff with that type of multi-inning reliever appearances.
Jorge on the right.
David, just the concept of lineup protection is thrown around quite a bit. When you have a guy like Wong hitting second, hitting behind Lindor, and then you got Alonso behind him, how do you see that dynamic? Do you feel like in this first week you see the effect that it could have on Pete hitting behind Wong?
So I think you hit on it there. Like, protection can happen in a number of different ways. Protection can happen because there are guys on base ahead of you and they have to pitch to you. Protection can also happen because they're scared to pitch to the guy behind you. And so the best way we think about protection, and we think about protecting our entire lineup, is doing our best to create 1 through 9 of guys who can get on base or provide threats in one way or the other. Clearly, the top half of our lineup, I think, is pretty dynamic, and You could certainly say all of those guys are protected in one way or the other. For us to score the number of runs we think we're capable of scoring, for us to truly be the offense we think we're capable of being, it's going to require 1 through 9 to protect everyone. And I think ultimately we'll do that.
Howie again on the left.
David, when you consider the incredible ordeal that Matt Allen's been through for the last number of years, when you look at potential best-case scenarios for him this year, is there a progression that you have in the back of your mind, or is he just in St. Lucie for now, and maybe you take that as it comes?
I think given everything Matt's gone through, every time he takes the ball right now, we're just happy. And he deserves to be happy, and he deserves to enjoy it. So he threw the other night. Let's get to the next one. Then after that, let's get to the next one. What I will say is what he is doing right now is really impressive, and he's demonstrating why he was so sought after out of the draft and why he has kept pushing so hard for the last 5 years to get back to this point.
And given how young he is, do you consider him still kind of a rehabbing project, or do you have him on track now as, okay, he's a 23, I think, year-old pitcher who's where he is, and he's got the stuff, if he stays healthy, to move along at a decent rate?
Yeah, I don't think it's partially age. It's candidly partially also where he is in his minor league service clock. So I don't think we're going to put too many ceilings on him. And I think as he performs, we'll move him. But we also need to ensure that he stays healthy and he's able to take the ball.
In the middle.
Pete Alonso obviously has gotten off to such a great start this season. Not sure if the word is reassuring or affirming based on all the challenges you went through this offseason, but what's that been like for you to witness?
Oh, it's been great. I think we've seen over the years here that when Pete gets going, he can carry a team, and it's been fun to see him with some enormous home runs. I think he's enjoyed it. Hopefully, it's allowed him to take a little bit of a deep breath, and he's earned it. He loves playing here. Our fans love watching him, and he's been a huge part of our wins so far this season.
Abby.
You were pretty candid about saying that you think Juan Soto is a league average defender when you signed him in December. He's been pretty excited about the strides that he thinks he made in spring training with Antoine Richardson. Where do you assess him right now defensively, and just what do you think he's capable of in like the near-term future?
Okay, I think Wong's worked incredibly hard on his defensive game. I think it's probably too early for me to offer an assessment of what he is this moment, but I think he's played pretty well out there. I think he's made some catches that have surprised some people. And so I give him a ton of credit for that. He's worked really well with Antoine. He wants the information. He wants to know how he's doing, and I would expect him to just continue to incrementally get better.
Dan.
Just following up on Soto, what have you thought of his first 10 days here, a couple of weeks, just his impact on the lineup? Obviously you guys invested a lot in him. Is it kind of come as advertised so far?
Yeah, absolutely. It's an incredibly quality at bat every time he's up there. I think he has a presence in the lineup that great players have, and that's wonderful, and it impacts the rest of the guys, just like someone like Francisco Lindor impacts the rest of the guys. And when we can stack those types of great players on top of each other, I think it makes a real difference for the lineup as a whole.
Tim.
What have you made of Mark Vientos' start to the season?
He's off to a rough start. He's probably chasing a little bit more than he'd like to. It was good to see him get a knock yesterday. He will snap out of this, but clearly he's not performing at the level we saw last year right now. He's not performing at the level he wants, but the talent is still in there. He's still a really good hitter. He's got a ton of power. We probably just need to get him back to swing at a few more strikes, and I think we will.
Hannah in the back.
Hey Dave, there was an interesting baseball prospectus story that looks at position players who are better more times through the order, sort of in the way we look at pitchers getting dinged. You're smiling like perhaps you read it.
I have not read it, but it sounds interesting.
Okay. Well, it found that Lindor is the best at sort of improving times through the order. It's not really like an actionable stat you can do. You can't drop him in the 7th inning against a starting pitcher still in the game. But
yet.
just as someone who thinks about those things.
Not yet. We might get there.
Exactly. Yeah. Golden bat. Have you ever sort of thought about a player's performance from that perspective, and what do you make of sort of him topping that list?
I have not thought about a position player performance from that perspective, although I'll go read the article. It doesn't surprise me that he would do well on that list. He's such an intelligent player, and I think he understands very quickly what any pitcher is trying to do to him on that given day. And so just the incremental data gain that he gets from an at-bat or from pitch to pitch, it does not surprise me that maybe it benefits him a little bit more than it would benefit another player.
And it was interesting you lumped him and Soto together as guys who have presence in the lineup, because Soto also was like somewhere in the upper echelon, like 5th or something. And yeah, those guys have a tangible effect, it seems like, on the rest of the lineup and their ability to see what the pitcher is doing.
Yeah, on Soto, I would imagine you could look at almost any analytic offensively over the last couple of years, and he would rate pretty well. But absolutely, you put those guys back to back, the quality of at-bats that they have, what they can learn about the pitcher as they're going through their at-bats, and also what the rest of our lineup and the guys coming after them can learn about the pitcher, I think can help us throughout the course of a season.